Galvez.
Colleagues, I rise today to speak at the reading of Bill C-50, the Sustainable Jobs Act. This is a long-awaited bill that will ensure that Canada has a framework. We are at the level of framework. We are not yet at the level of creating jobs and in the details of the negotiations with the provinces. So this is a framework in place to prepare the workforce for the jobs of a net zero economy. The transition is there. It's already here, wanted it or not. The bill establishes a Sustainable Job Partnership Council responsible for engaging workers, industry, and other governments. It will require the publication of a Sustainable Job Action Plan every 5 years. It also creates a Sustainable Job Secretariat to support the implementation of the Act. This is simply a framework to provide government accountability as we help workers transition to the sustainable jobs of today and tomorrow. This is an urgent matter, especially for Canada, because we are behind. As a natural resource economy, we have enormous economic potential to help advance the net zero economy through mining of critical minerals and the production of renewable energy and sustainable circular economy. Yet, at this moment, we continue to increase our already disproportionate investment in fossil fuels, which contributes to the climate crisis that brings destructive extreme weather events. A few years ago, we adopted the Canadian Net Zero Emissions Accountability Act to reach our climate targets. But to this day, we are still missing a plan to help workers thrive in this new economy we are building. These bills start us on this path. But this is not just a question of reaching the climate targets we set. This bill is essential to ensure our continued prosperity as a country, as a nation. Some critics of the bill have vocal about their concern that this bill is a ploy to eliminate the fossil fuel industry in Canada. This can be farther from the truth. It's not a given government that is doing this, and even less this specific government, because this government bought for us a pipeline and keeps giving billions of dollars every year in subsidies to the oil and gas sector that is reporting record profits today. In fact, what is making the change is the change in technology, the disruption of the business-as-usual markets, and the increase of these climate and nature-related costs because of these extreme weather events that are driving this transition. And we are behind our peers, our commercial partners, and we must catch up. So let me explain. In comparison to renewable energy technologies, an energy system based on fossil fuels is highly inefficient. When we produce and deliver energy system by resource extraction, it's refinement, not here in Canada, but it's refining elsewhere in North America. Value product transport, electricity production and transmission, and electricity delivering, we waste along all this path close to 2/3 of the initial potential energy. Indeed, renewable energy is 2 to 3 times more efficient at generating electricity, 1.5 times better in delivering electricity, 3 to 4 times better at heating, and 2 to 4 times more efficient than combustion engine vehicles. At this point, dear colleagues, it must be evident for you that an economy that is based on fossil fuels causes inflation at each step of the supply chain. But we have seen previous industrial revolutions. We now and we need to embrace more efficient, cleaner, cheaper, safer technologies. We have done it in the past. Resistance is not a smart choice. Colleagues, must I say the obvious? Civilization did not abandon the Stone Age because of lack of stones. It did it, yes, so we did it because we have a great step in gaining in efficiency. So then, when we hear that Canada is behind our peers in productivity, that economies likes mentioning, we are behind in productivity and in competitiveness. So it's not to the defenders of past polluting technologies that we will hear the solution to this problem. We must listen to the experts. We must listen to scientists. The International Energy Agency recently published its annual report on oil and gas, where it predicts that the world will see an unprecedented level of surplus global supply capacity, outpacing demand growth by 8 million barrels per day by 2030. Global oil demand is expected to plateau by 2030, even in China, and would lead to an era of lower prices. According to our Canadian Energy Research Institute, Canada's fossil fuel sector does not fare well in a low-price market scenario. Do you remember the last time the barrel of oil was $100? I challenge you to remember when was that time. Leading to decreases in employment, employee compensation, profitability, and government tax revenues. Collègues, que l'on le veuille ou non, notre secteur de combustibles fossiles ne nous portera pas à nous ni à notre économie au cours des prochaines décennies. Si nous essayons activement de maintenir le Canada dans l'économie du passé et d'empêcher les pays de passer aux énergies renouvelables, on se souviendra de nous comme de la génération de parlementaires qui a fermé la porte aux énormes opportunités économiques qui découleront de la transition énergétique mondiale. Nous avons donc besoin d'un cadre législatif pour nous équiper d'une main-d'œuvre capable de faire du Canada un leader mondial en énergie propre. Cela étant dit, le projet de loi proposé par le gouvernement est une première étape pour la transition des travailleurs. I would like to make here a parenthesis. As a civil engineer specialized in the environmental field, I've been teaching engineers for the last 20 years that we were in the transition. But we weren't. So what happened to all those incredible engineers that we formed for the transition? They went elsewhere. So when I listened to my colleague about training technicians and training engineers, well, this is what we have been doing. But unfortunately, the sustainable jobs were not there. So they left. Au cours de l'étude en comité dans l'autre chambre, les députés ont apporté des changements importants au projet de loi, notamment l'inclusion d'une définition du terme « emploi durable » est une importante addition qui assurera que ceux-ci soient effectivement des emplois qui contribueront à la transition énergétique. Les députés ont également précisé la composition du Conseil de partenariat, assurant ainsi la représentation des syndicats, de l'industrie, d'un organisme environnemental et des peuples autochtones. Ceux-ci auront également maintenant la responsabilité de conseiller les ministres responsables sur des domaines de coopération avec les gouvernements provinciaux et territoriaux et d'autres gouvernements au Canada. Ces ajouts sont importants pour reconnaître le rôle des provinces et des territoires dans la main-d'œuvre. Je suis tout à fait d'accord avec ma collègue Belmar que tout ce beau plan ne réussira pas sans l'intervention des provinces, mais surtout à des niveaux municipaux. Mais on y va arriver à d'autres choses d'autres défis qu'il va falloir relever. Lors de notre propre étude au sein du Comité de l'énergie, de l'environnement et des ressources naturelles, nous avons entendu d'importantes préoccupations et avons soumis plusieurs observations. Tout d'abord, tous les niveaux de gouvernement doivent écouter attentivement les communautés touchées par la transition, en particulier celles qui le sont le plus durement, pour qu'ils s'adaptent leurs programmes et leurs investissements aux priorités de ces communautés, que ce soit en matière d'éducation et de développement des compétences ou d'autres besoins. Dans cette période de transition, il est important que nous aidions toutes les communautés à s'épanouir et à prospérer. En particulier, le comité encourage l'éventuel conseil du partenariat à concentrer ses travaux sur le soutien aux peuples autochtones ainsi qu'aux communautés rurales et éloignées, afin qu'ils puissent en tirer parti de la transition vers l'énergie propre. Il est important de noter également que plusieurs membres du comité ont soulevé l'importance de s'engager auprès des travailleurs non syndiqués, ce que le projet de loi n'aborde pas explicitement. En 2019, Statistique Canada confirmait que plus de 70% des employés canadiens ne sont pas syndiqués. Donc, il serait déraisonnable merci, d'ignorer les besoins d'une si grande proportion de la main-d'œuvre au Canada. Colleagues, Bill C-50 has received widespread support from workers across the country, including from regions heavily invested in fossil fuels. Ultimately, workers want good, sustainable jobs that can support them and their families. The world energy market is changing along with the jobs in the energy sectors. We need to recognize deliver a plan to mobilize Canada's extremely skilled workforce towards those jobs that will carry us through 2050 and beyond. I would like to end on this point. Bill C-50 is only one piece, although a much-needed one, in the transition to a net-zero economy. As we know, we need a whole suite of action if we are to succeed in this global competitive race. Economists advocate for a price on pollution. Implementing the right to a healthy environment is what the vast majority of Canadians expect. But there are still significant gaps in Canada's climate action plan. We need the finance sector to scale up and materialize the needed changes. Although providing training for a skilled workforce is essential, we must also facilitate investment in the clean and renewable energy sector if we want to create a solid sector that will provide workers with good-paying, stable jobs. We need a taxonomy to help inform investors on desired projects, something that over 40 countries and regions already have. We are again behind, including the European Union, China, Mexico, Russia, and the Asian countries. We also critically need a stronger guidelines for the financial sector, something that myself, but many nations and experts around the world are raising. Only when the financial sector will be aligned with our climate commitments that the other sectors, the energy, the construction, the building, the transport, the infrastructure, the health sectors, will then create the sustainable jobs that are referred here in C-50. It is only when all these different parts that will integrate and do a comprehensive net zero path will work together towards this common goal that we will achieve our climate targets and prosper at the same time. Dear colleagues, I urge you to support Bill C-50 to better position Canada's workforce for hours and generations to come. Merci. Thank you, Mewich.